hopefully these aren't all rusty and you got an issue with the bolts breaking off. But we're going to lower the car now and we're going to take these two end rubber pieces off. The bolts that hold those side rubber pieces onto the body are located right in this area behind this inner fender panel. So you're going to have to remove this on both sides. When new, these panels had a pin plug right here, a plastic body plug. You have to remove that. These are already gone. But the best way to get this out is to get up here at the top and roll this down like this. You got to be careful because you can break these because the plastic is old. And what you're going to do is you're going to roll it out. Then you're going to make sure it's clear of the tail light. And you're just going to take and push and pull and roll it out like that. With the liner removed, you can clearly see the two bolts right here. There's one here and one here. And these hold a steel plate up against the side of the rear fender that crimps that rubber bumper piece onto the side of the body. So we're going to have to pull these two bolts. You want to be real careful. You don't break them. They may be rusty on the other side. It goes into a nut plate. You don't have to get a wrench on the back side. It's a welded nut plate on that steel panel. So when you take these out, be very careful. Go slow, and you may have to get underneath there and try to peel the rubber back and get some rust penetrant on there if you find these aren't coming out easily. I want to show you a very important reason why it's a good idea to remove these rear side rubber pieces for the rear bumper. If you pull this off, you're invariably going to find rust down here, particularly if you live anywhere where it rains, and if you have road salt, it's even going to be worse. Fortunately, these didn't break. A lot of times you'll see the bolts break off here. But look at the rust right here that started on the body. And this is just going to keep growing and growing and growing until pretty soon you'll start seeing bubbling out in this area. So what we're going to do now is we're going to treat this so it will not continue to rust. This is a prime candidate for our miracle paint. Is we're going to clean all this area out right down to bare metal there and there. Anywhere where you have holes that penetrate the bodies on these older cars, you really want to clean them up and coat them with miracle paint, particularly on the edges, because that's where the rust starts. There's two sheet metal screws right up here that you have to remove to get this metal piece completely free of the rear fender. Here's my tool of choice when cleaning up these small rust spots in preparation for miracle paint. You want to get past the rust, maybe come out a quarter to a half an inch into clean bare metal so you get a really nice bond when you apply the miracle paint. But this is an amazing heavy Scotch-Brite wheel that really cuts into the paint. Now I'll just come in with a little bit of sandpaper and kind of taper that out, and then we're ready to put 2 coats of the thick miracle paint on this, make sure it gets down into the hole along those edges, and that'll keep it from rusting in the future. Well, here are the 2 spots we cleaned up with that die grinder and heavy, heavy Scotch-Brite pad. And look, we coated these last night with miracle paint, and man, that's tough. Wait until about 3 days. It'll be so hard you can't even scratch that battery tray. You know, this thing was so rusty. So I've gone ahead and put the heavy coat of miracle paint on it. It's very, very messy. You want to use a lot of plastic. Always wear gloves. And now I've let it sit about, 20, 25 minutes, and I'll just come back in here after about that amount of time and make sure I don't have any runs. It goes on pretty thick, and you want to let it dry on there thick, but you really don't want to have those heavy runs. So I'll just kind of stroke lightly through this, and I may come back in another half hour and recheck this. Now notice what I've done. I've painted the other side, and then I've turned it upside down, and I only have it hitting on 3 points because I'll have to touch those up when I'm all done. But look at how I've used plastic. And then when you finish, make sure and try to get the lid back on this as quickly as possible, and always use saran wrap when you're putting the lid back on the miracle paint. Let me show you again what happens to someone who put the lid on a different can of miracle paint and did not use the saran wrap. Oh, and I also had to go into the engine compartment and do some miracle paint work underneath the battery tray. There's a few rust spots there, but it wasn't too bad. So here's the can that just got the lid pushed back on. Now let me warn you, even if you clean this lip area out really well, if you have any miracle paint at all, this lid is going to stick to the can. And so I always recommend using saran wrap or some sort of plastic, even if you get this lip and groove really clean. But watch this. You cannot. I will literally have to cut this can apart. I'll have to get another can, and there's no way that I'm going to be able to get the lid off this can of Miracle Paint by prying it with a screwdriver. Now I can finish up by replacing these rubber side pieces. You see we've cleaned the metal up and coated it with Miracle Paint. It just slides right in here like this. And we put it in place. You'll see it'll cover right over the top of the bumper. We slide it underneath there, and we're going to get in the trunk and bolt that up. And you're probably going to find the same type of rust on those front bumper side plates, but we do have a bunch of really good used parts on my website, including good used bumper rubber, and we've got some good used plates if yours are so far rusty they can't be used. So look at the links below in the show more of this description, and those links will take you right to what I offer in terms of used parts for the W123.